meet my bride. Let's go for a ride in my newfangled automobile. Just where we will go, nobody knows, but it's sure a great way to feel. Behind the wheel of the speed meter steel, it's my newfangled automobile.
Hello and welcome to Vintage Car History. I'm Wild Bill. Besides falling from great heights, being blown up, and of course never catching the Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote was also known for his patronage of the Acme Company. Whatever sort of contraption he desired, Acme had it on the shelf. And there were quite a few companies 100 or so years ago that, like Acme, offered all kinds of things, often not related to each other. Adler was such a company, offering cars, bicycles, motorcycles, typewriters, sewing machines, airplanes, and more. So today we're going to look at the pre-World War I journey of the Adler Company. Our story begins with the birth of Heinrich Kleyer in 1853 in the German town of Darmstadt, which is about 20 miles south of Frankfurt. His father, Wilhelm, was a local large steam engine mechanic specializing in machining replacement parts. He was quite skillful and successful, so young Heinrich was treated to an excellent education. He received his mechanical engineering degree from the Technical University of Darmstadt in 1875 and began to look for work. Now keep in mind the Germany of 1875. The empire was only 4 years old, and this was a very fascinating period in German history, with the new Kaiser Wilhelm I at the command of a nation under the control of Otto von Bismarck, but that is a tale for another channel to tell. Anywho, Heinrich joined a fraternity while in college and used both his connections and dad's money to land a good engineering job in Hamburg. It was in 1880 that, having money, talent, and influence, he established a facility in Frankfurt to build his own bicycle, a penny farthing in his case, and put it into production the following year under the name Adler, which in German means eagle. Business was good, and he added modern safety bikes a few years later, and through a deal with Dunlop, became the first German cycle maker to sell bikes with pneumatic tires. 1898 saw a major expansion of the company. Under Heinrich's direction, Adler began to add more products and product lines to the factory. The first Adler prototype motorcycles, cars, sewing machines, and typewriters date from this year, with all of them being in full production by 1900. The first motorcycles and cars produced by the company proved to be winners on and off the track, and Adler would become a dominant player in the German automotive market for decades. The first Adler cars were powered by various de Dion-Bouton engines ranging from 2 to 4 cylinders and 3 to 12 horsepower. Inspired by the contemporary Renault and well-appointed, these cars were front-engined with 3-speed transmissions and shaft drive to the wheels. The engine was water-cooled with a pump as opposed to thermosiphon and was amongst the first cars to have a gear shift on the steering column. 2-seater and 4-seater bodies, often in V form, were available. In 1902, Adler brought on board a very experienced automotive engineer by the name of Edmund Rumpler. He had worked side by side with Hans Ledwinka, designing and building the first Nesselsdorfer cars, and he had some ideas to implement. Rumpler designed a series of 2- and 4-cylinder engines to replace the De Dion, which made their first appearance in production cars later that year. What was unique about these engines is that the engine and transmission were all one unit, a first for a German car. A first for all cars was invented by Rumpler and patented in 1903. The swing axle. Swing axles, which are typically found on the drive axle or axles, have multiple joints so that the powered axle can provide even distribution of torque on uneven surfaces. These axles do have their shortcomings, but remained popular on many makes of cars across the world for many decades, and they first appeared on Adler cars. Heinrich's 2 sons, Otto and Erwin, started taking Adlers to the races in the first decade of the 20th century and brought home quite a few wins. They brought on other driver, Alfred Thiel, who incidentally owned a company that made piston rings. And the three of them raced, rallied, and hill climbed all across Europe in 2, 4, and even 6-cylinder race cars. And the competitive success caused more sales of production cars. By the start of World War I, Adler was Germany's third largest car maker, behind Benz and Opel. After the war, Adler would continue to make impressive race cars and production cars, and we'll talk about those another day. The company built airplanes by the start of the war and continued to expand their product lines through to World War II. There are many clubs across Europe of Adler enthusiasts for their cars, motorcycles, and other products. And if there's a German Wile E. Coyote, you can be sure that he gets his Roadrunner killing products from Adler, which is why we don't hear about him, because Adler stuff works properly and the cartoons would just be a cooking show. Thanks for watching Vintage Car History, and we'll see you next week. Peace.